Hey guys, Alicia here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make watercolor blobs in iPicky.com. Now, if you're not sure what watercolor blobs are or what they are used for, make sure you stay tuned for my next video that will be following this one, and you'll see what they're used for. Watercolor blobs, watercolor swatches, anything like that, you can use them for many things. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this. You're going to click on Create a Design, and there are two ways to make a transparent background. You can either click right here on New and create a template size, and then you would check this box right here where it says Transparent, and it would turn the background transparent, which means that it would be a PNG file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the other way to do it, which is how I'm going to do it. I don't really need a certain template size right now, because what I want to do in this case is I want to create my watercolor blob, and then I'm going to crop it down once I'm finished. So to make the background transparent, we're going to click on Background. And right here where it says Fade, we're just going to go all the way to 100%, and that immediately makes this completely transparent. So now is what we need to do is we need to export this template to the photo editor. So we're now in the editor, which gives us a lot more options. And the option that we need is the paint, the painter. So we're going to click on this right here, and we can X out of anything we don't need. I don't really need to see what my background layer is, so I'm going to X out of this. Now, there's one of two ways you can choose a color. You can either click on this, and if you do, the whole color spectrum is going to pull up, and you can do that. Or you can pick something off of here if you want, which for the purposes of this video, just to save on time, I'm going to pick something off of here. Okay, so I have chosen my color. The next thing we need to do is we need to select a brush. Now the watercolor brushes that I like to use are right here on the top. They're the last four, which says 13, 21, 45, and 100. Now, just because they say that in size, that does not mean that's the size that you have to select, because you can choose any one of them and you can make them whatever size you want to make. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 21, but before I do that, I'm going to take my opacity down just a little bit to about 70%, because I don't want it to be too dark, but I don't want it to be too light, because we're going to add some contrast with a lighter shade of this color. Okay, so we have selected this brush. You can also select right here the diameter. Now this is where you can make it whatever size you want. As you can tell down here, if you watch this, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger the bigger you make the brush. So that makes a difference on a brush this size as opposed to a brush this size. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of do something right here. You can also choose the hardness of this, and I don't want this to be, very hard. I want this to be definitely, look like it is watercolor. I've also seen people use a lot, different brushes, and maybe I can get into that in a different video. But for now, I'm going to stick with this. So we've picked out our color, we've changed our opacity, we've changed the diameter of the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of this for just a moment. Now all I'm going to do is make a circle. Now if you've ever seen watercolor blobs, they are not perfectly shaped circles. So this does not have to be a perfectly shaped circle in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of color this in. Okay, so what we need to do next is we're going to add a little bit of contrast. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change the opacity, and we're going to take this down to about 30%, and I'm going to add in a little bit lighter of a color, and it's not really showing up. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to select the white, and let me see what this does on the opacity. So I'm going to take the opacity to about 68%. I'm just playing around with this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of white just to make this, you know, add a little bit of contrast here. If you've ever seen these watercolor blobs, they are not in any way, shape, or form like you would just have to see them all. Okay, so I'm going to just keep playing around with this a little bit. I'm going to kind of click on my brush here because I don't want the diameter to be that big. So I'm just going to kind of go back around and just add. There's really no rules here. You just keep playing with it. Now, right here where it just shows like a big blob right here, in this case, you would probably want to add a little bit more of that color, and that is what I'm going to do. So there's really just no rules here. I'm just kind of playing around with this. And as you can tell around the edges, this is softening this up. Now, I kind of want to go back in and fill this back in with a little bit of the color that we used because I feel like I've kind of made too much white right here. So I'm going to go back and I am going to select the color that I chose. And the color that I chose was this one right here. So we have to do this again and mess around with the brushes one more time. And we can take our opacity to a little bit, and we just have to kind of play around with this until we get this, you know, however we want this to be. So we can always keep going back over it a little bit just to give it a little bit more contrast. If you want your brush size to be smaller, you can do that as well. So once again, there really is no rules. And you can get as creative as you want with this. It's just all a matter. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to kind of add just a little bit more contrast here, and then I'm going to go back and add a little bit more white to kind of what I've been doing. And is what I'm doing right here. If you can tell, this is lightening this up a little bit. I can take the opacity just a little bit more if I really want to kind of lighten this up. Okay, and then now I'm going to go back to the color that we had originally chosen, which was this one, and I'm going to kind of go just a little bit right here, kind of make it to kind of soften some of those areas that are just a little bit too white. Okay, I am pretty happy with this. This is a watercolor blob. If you look, or if you Google watercolor blobs, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see something similar to this. Now I'm going to go ahead and click apply, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. And you want to make sure that you do save it as a PNG. Do not save it as a JPEG, because if you do that, it will make the background white. So I'm just going to save this to my desktop. And you can save this wherever you need to. Right now I'm just saving it to my desktop just so that I can find it later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click continue editing, because I'm just going to kind of show you what some other things you can do with that. Okay, so if you have seen some watercolor blobs, you'll see them where they're not in perfect circles, as this one is not a perfect circle. And you'll even see sometimes they've got something hanging off, or something like that. And I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. So the brush I like to use for that is this one, and it kind of gives it more of a straight line. And so once again, I'm also going to choose my opacity. I always do that first, just to kind of take it down a little bit, so that it's not so harsh. And the diameter of our brush, we can fix that. And you can choose the spacing. You can have it far apart, or you can have it kind of close together. So I've only got this at about 3%. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that color, and what we're going to do here is, you'll even see on some of these where they'll have like something like this hanging off. And let me go back to the brush settings. So you'll even see things like this, where it's just kind of hanging off a little bit, where it kind of looks like it's kind of drawing off like that, and then they would probably color it in a little bit here or something like that. So there really is no rules on what to do with watercolor blobs. but these brushes in iPicky, you just have to get on here and play around with them. So I'm going to kind of undo what we've done because I was really happy with this watercolor blob that we created. And you can make these, like I said, you can make these and sell these on Etsy. You can make them in all different colors. You can sell them in a set of 9, 12, 20, 36, whatever it is you want, and do your pricing from there. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you do have any comments, please leave them in the comments section below. But if you really have questions, please join my Facebook group. It is called Etsy Passive Income, and I guarantee you will love my group. And if you have to answer the 3 questions, and one of the moderators or myself will allow you into the group. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.